Hey, this is Dr. Emily Shirting with AR. I'm talking to you outside today because it's too stuffy inside. We got good air here today. I want to talk about choosing a climate destination. I get a lot of email from people who have a high level of anxiety about making the right choice, finding the best possible climate destination. And I kind of want to pop the balloon on that one. I think that it's a very common human tendency to want to think that there is a best solution, particularly for people who live in our culture where you're pushed to optimize so much, where you're pushed to excel so much. There isn't a perfect solution when it comes to climate, I don't think, not in the world that we're living in. You know, in 2023 here, this summer here, many of us have experienced new extremes, new anomalous events all over the world, and those of us in the US as well. There's no place that isn't going to change. When we talk about finding a climate destination, for me, it's all about managing change. It's looking at places that have lower rates of change. We know that there are sort of bands through the country that have higher rates of change. There's some higher rates of change as we look far to the north, like as we look up in the north woods of Minnesota. There's some higher rates of change as we look kind of around Tennessee and Kentucky. There's a band of higher change there. And as we look down to the south of Florida, we start to run into another real high change band down there in the south. I think that as a general rule, looking for places with lower rates of change, such as we find going through Oklahoma, such as we find going through northern Illinois, such as we find going the finest low change band, going through sort of central Wisconsin. Those are the places to look. And you don't look at them because you think, if I go here, everything is going to be fine. No, you go there because you're like, this is going to be a level of challenge where I think there's a higher chance of maintaining landscape stewardship. You want to look at it where there's a higher opportunity to help ecosystems and species move intact with you through the crucible. Because it is going to be impossible to have enough sacks of rice to take us 300 years into the future, right? We have to look at where are we going to be able to live and where are we going to be able to live sustainably. Even the most skilled of us, even the techiest people, if we look at the future, it makes sense to try and live in a more sustainable way where our labor is no longer so optimized, so put in one direction, highly specialized, high diversification. I think that many of us will need to become more generalists in our approach. You'll want to be able to grow some more of your own food. You know, if you look back into the past, if you look back even 100 years ago, your average family was outsourcing somewhat less of their labor. People were cooking at home more, making more of their own clothes. In areas that permitted it, were growing more of their own food. A tremendous percentage of Americans used to be farmers, and now it's a very rare profession that gets a completely disproportionate amount of hate and that has very high suicide rates, very unexamined level of pain in the American farmer. It's a unfortunate reality. I think that as we look towards the future, as we look towards climate destination, one important thing is choosing a lower change band, particularly if you're interested in biodiversity and landscape transformation. That's part of what I'm doing here in eastern Iowa. But you know, if I were really serious about optimizing my experience, I'd be more like smack in the middle of a low change band, right? I'm kind of on the edge. I'm in a borderland here, and it will stay a borderland no matter which future we move into, RCP 4.5, RCP 8.5, or if we saw a complete like ocean current collapse like we talked about in last week's video. I'd be on the border anyway. And this is partly because of my interest in biodiversity. Everyone who's been in the natural world for a while knows that life really thrives at the edges, where things come together, where there are good migration pathways, where there's movement and collision. And it's always interesting for humans too, right? There's going to be a need for humans to move, for people to get through. I think that when we talk about where we want to be, you don't always have to think about what is going to be the most optimized experience, the safest, most idealized experience. You can think of, well, where can you be of use? There's like a balance, right? Between where am I going to be able to have enough stability to live and where am I going to be able to be of use? I would encourage people with a mindset like myself, a biodiversity focused mindset like myself, to think about the bands where we're gonna have a ton of movement. If you're on the East Coast, there's a substantial area outside of Buffalo that is gonna be just the craziest migration corridor where we need people to protect it. We need people to make microhabitats so that small living things can move through it. If we're looking in Michigan, that land bridge between Detroit and Canada, completely crucial for northern movement. Any of you all who are involved in the urban gardening, the revitalization of Detroit, who are watching this, the work that you're doing today in terms of our future biodiversity could be just immeasurable. And once we get up into Canada, once we're talking about people there in the broadly written suburbs of Toronto, the work that you do to help species get up north, the biodiversity work that you do in your yards to help species get up north, it could be huge. We're talking about a situation where everything that we can get through the bottleneck is going to matter. I think that it's worth thinking about other living things when we make our decisions, not just how can we optimize our own experiences. My kids found me, so I had to run away. I'm going to finish this up. I don't have much time. I think that as we're trying to get into choosing a climate destination, it's important to move away from a place of anxiety and move towards a place of service. And to be able to provide service, to provide the ecosystem services that humans are so great at. Think about what we can do to help ecosystem through transition, through transformation. We're the best. We're fabulous. You have to be able to provide yourself with a certain baseline level of stability. You have to engage in a certain amount of self-care. But moving from fear of what's going to happen to you towards service, I think this is a way that can guide us to get to the right place, to get to the home where we're meant to be. If I'm wrong, if 300 years worth of rice guy is the guy who wins out, good on you, man. I'm wishing you all the best. All of us, we got to get through this how we can. And now it's time to get ready. Let's get ready together. Bye. I want to thank everyone who is helping AR grow. There are people I want to thank who are giving money. There are people I want to thank who are giving time. There are people I want to thank out there who are giving interaction to this channel. We're at a critical point of growth. We're a recently monetized channel. Don't worry, I'm not making any money off it. But we're in a place where our content could grow to reach a larger audience. Many people write me this is the first place where they were able to find and access local climate information. Everyone deserves access to local climate information. And AR is the only nonprofit focused on providing access to local climate information for people like you. If you want to hang out with us on the 20th of August, Sunday at 2 p.m., we're going to be talking about resilience challenges facing the South. For people who want to stay in place in the Southwest and the Southeast, how can we get serious about extreme heat? Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.